It's Chef Lonnie McGill. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I have a really exciting recipe that I want to share with you guys. It's going to be an Asian-inspired cauliflower steak with green beans and a black bean sauce, hence the Kikkoman soy sauce shirt. So if you guys are ready, let's get cooking. So the first thing that we want to do is actually wash off our produce. Anytime you have fruit and or vegetables, you always want to make sure that they're thoroughly washed first. So we'll head to our prep sink, wash off our green beans, making sure that they are thoroughly clean, and doing the exact same with our cauliflower, making sure that we're rinsing them off and making sure that everything looks good. Now that we have our rinsed produce, let's go back to the board and get started. Now that we have our vegetables back to our board, we are going to go ahead and start with our green beans. So typically green beans are going to have these little funky ends on them, and we want to just cut these off. So we're going to line our green beans up and just get the ends off. We want to get the tops and the bottoms off and make sure that they are fairly even, because remember, if we keep things even, then our cooking time will be exactly the same. After we have our green beans done, we are going to move to our cauliflower. So the cauliflower is going to come with a really funky looking green plant on the bottom of it. You want to remove all of that. So we're going to remove the base of the cauliflower and making sure that we keep the core intact, because it's going to be what keeps our whole cauliflower together once we start to make our steaks. So once we have the bottom portion of the cauliflower removed, we're actually going to cut into our cauliflower about 1.5 inch slices so that we can create the steaks. And don't worry if there are crumbles that fall off on the sides. Typically you're going to get about 2 to 3 full steaks out of cauliflower. Just save the rest for later and you can use it for another recipe. All right, now that we have our steaks, now it's time to make our marinade. So we're going to take a everyday Ziploc bag and put it inside of maybe a quart container or a tall glass. This will just serve as an extra set of hands so that we can make sure that we're getting all of our ingredients into the bag. And we'll add in a neutral oil, maybe like a salad oil or maybe a vegetable oil if you have some. Then we're going to add in some ginger. I've got ground ginger, but you can use fresh ginger if you have that as well. The next ingredient that we're going to add is fish sauce. It is a very deep flavor and a little bit goes a long way. So you want to make sure that you don't use a lot, but it gives you that umami flavor that Asian cuisine typically has. Then we are going to add some brown sugar. The brown sugar is actually going to be one of the most important parts of this marinade because it's going to give you the caramelization on the cauliflower that you would essentially get if you were to sear meat in a regular steak. And the last ingredient that we're going to add is going to be our hoisin sauce. Hoisin sauce is like a Korean barbecue sauce. It's sweet and kind of rich at the same time. And once you have all of these mixed together, the last thing that you're going to add to it will just be your scallions, just the green parts of the green onion. And once you have everything in the bag, you just want to seal it up, squish it around, make sure it's all well incorporated, then add in your cauliflower steaks so they can marinate. Now that we have our cauliflower steaks that have been marinating for about 10 to 15 minutes, we can add them to a sheet tray, and now it's time to cook. Now we're going to preheat our oven to about 400 degrees. And before we put our cauliflower steaks into the oven, we are going to drizzle them with some soy sauce and chopped garlic. Our steaks will go in the oven for about 10 to 15 minutes. So now that we're at the stove, we're going to go ahead and preheat our pan to about a medium heat. We're going to add that neutral oil to the pan, and you can do any neutral oil that you have. A salad oil, vegetable oil, some type of canola oil will be perfectly fine. We've got some minced garlic. We're going to add that to our pan as well. Make sure that you keep the garlic moving around because you don't want it to burn. And once you start to actually get a little bit of sizzle on that garlic, you want to go ahead and add in your green beans. The green beans should take about 5 to 6 minutes to cook. You don't want to cook them to death. You still want them to have color and crunch. Typically when I'm doing Asian recipes, I try to stay away from salt. And we can substitute that with soy sauce. So we can go ahead and add a little bit of soy sauce to our pan. This is going to give us the salt that we would typically get in any other recipe. Now we're going to build our sauce in the pan. We've got the juice that we drained off of black beans, and that's going to go into the pan. We don't have to worry about making this in another pot. We can just go ahead and build our sauce right here in the pan. In addition to the black bean juice, we're going to add a little bit of brown sugar. Light or dark brown sugar works perfectly fine for this recipe. If you don't have any brown sugar, you can use another sweetener like white sugar or maybe even honey or agave nectar. If you keep your heat where it is, you will start to get a boil and it'll start to reduce right here in the pan. It should take, again, about 5 or 6 minutes. We'll add some crushed red pepper and we'll let them cook. While our green beans are cooking, don't forget we've got our marinade working in the back that's going to be reducing down and turning into our sauce for our steaks. If your sauce gets too thick, you can add maybe a vegetable stock or maybe even chicken stock to thin it out a little bit. But keep an eye on it. When it begins to have really big bubbles, that means that your sauce is thick and you're ready to serve. All right, you guys, here we have it, our finished product of our Asian-inspired cauliflower steaks with green beans in a black bean sauce. I'm super excited about this recipe and I hope that you enjoy it just as much. Thanks so much for cooking with me, and I hope to see you guys next time.